Where does the name the Jenny thing come from?
Right. Well, yeah, someone has to ask that one. It really, it was, walking down the street talking about, this guy, this girl when we were in college. And somehow it was, I think we ran into two instances of like, oh, well, that was the whole thing with Jenny. And we realized that there was another whole thing with another Jenny. And so what we used to say when we were 20 years old doing this was, well, everyone's got something for a girl named Jenny. That's what we
All
said.
connected, isn't it? It's like, that's the common theme, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we're somehow on that wavelength. But I think it's just a sign of when we grew up and what the names were at the time. We could have been the Lisa thing or the Stephanie thing or something like that.
Sure, sure. Yeah, those very common names.
Yeah, yeah. But
So,
we it's not a deep name. We just sort of fell into it and then got back to the music. And man, we don't even think about the name anymore. We often call ourselves TJT, just around, just in and around, like, hey, let's get TGT together.
so how did it all start for you? You all knew each other as kids growing up in your like Northern California?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm in the Bay Area, and I speak to you from here now. I'm in Berkeley, and yeah, I grew up just a few miles north of here. And the first person I met in the band was Mike, and he's the drummer. And I've known him since I was 0 years old. Actually, his dad and my mom were friends growing up, like junior high, high school type thing. Um, and then we both met Aaron, I think, in junior high. And then the sort of birth of the band from a creative and musical angle was me meeting Sham Rao at Cal in the 90s. So we were both studying there and lived in the same big boarding house, and just sort of hit it off. And actually, we hit it off first, and then I figured out he was a musician. And we're really different kinds of musicians, which is awesome. It's a really good thing. But that was really the core. That was when we started writing together and thought we could really make something of it. And then I tapped my small network of people, which included Mike and Aaron, and that fleshed out the band. And we have the same four people on this record, some 30 years later,
That's
bizarrely.
amazing. Yeah, I think guys are pretty good about that because I have childhood friends where I was started doing movie making and was doing that all the way through adolescence, and we got a little bit of TV exposure, newspaper exposure. We're still friends now over 40 years later,
That's
and
so great.
50 with some of them. It's guys I think are a little bit easier to do that and to form these kind of relationships. So
Yeah.
you didn't really know about the musical talent until you got into college. You've known each other for years. How did you all learn? Did you all secretly learn to play instruments and to sing and
Right,
songwrite?
right. Where the actual music come. Right. Well, that's interesting because I did know Aaron. Aaron played. He was playing the bass by the time we were in junior high, high school. We didn't go to the same high school, but I continued to be aware of him. Mike and I did actually play together in even like elementary school and junior high, in little cover bands. And he and I were like in a little synth pop cover band in high school together with a couple other people, unrelated. And yeah, and then for my musical thing, I grew up a very serious musician, I suppose. Like I was studying piano at 8, and played in jazz groups at school and other places up until college, and really was at a turning point in college. In fact, I had auditioned into some relatively, legit, I think it was a Latin jazz ensemble at UC Berkeley. And I got the initial nod, like, we'll try you out, come to a couple rehearsals kind of thing. And right in there, I was having this kind of like, am I really going to kind of do this piano jazz thing as an adult or whatever? And what was actually really neat for me in music and my creative life was that I was studying literature, and that's what I majored in. And the writing and the verse writing and poetry and all of that kind of converged in this band for me. So I mean, I don't know if you think so, but I take my words really seriously. A lot of it's written in meter. And one of my inspirations is actually a professor I had at Cal named Tom Gunn, who actually was in the Norton Anthology of Poetry, and was a British guy who I think came to the Bay Area in the 50s, 60s, kind of a rock and roll, you know, almost like a street poet, but always wrote in meter. So he had this super great sort of wild raw thing, and then this like disciplined metered thing that he would do. And so I actually studied in his workshop at Cal for one semester. Fabulous guy, super, super gifted, super encouraging, sort of a mentor to many. I was just, one of many, many, many. But anyway, I think of him when I write, and on this record in particular, because I was very disciplined. It's not just sort of like, oh, this is how I feel, and then I felt differently the next day and differently the day after that. And I just sort of wrote a song for each day. There's kind of a structure that runs throughout.
Neat. So growing up, was it always something like the Smiths, New Order, Bauhaus?
Yeah.
What kind of bands you were like totally into?
Yeah, so far so good, for sure.
I notice also, like, maybe in your vocal style, I feel like I'm hearing some Elvis Costello in there.
I've gotten that always, and it's funny, I think the only rabid Elvis Costello fan in the band is Aaron, the bass player. And I don't know if that was attractive at all to him to join the band. I can't help it, is the thing. I don't really listen to him a lot. I have deep appreciation for him. In the same category for me, not in terms of genre or kind of identity, but REM. REM is a band that, like, everything I hear by them, I think, I get it. This is so well felt, so well built. And I haven't quite caught traction with it. And I feel sometimes that way about Elvis Costello. But I sound like him. Yes, I do. We have the same sinuses, is what I like to say.
It must be that. It's just like I'm closing my eyes and walking around with it and listening to it. I'm like, I feel like I want to sing Veronica. I like, this is just, so conjuring that up.
That's so funny. Yeah. But I've heard that only like 40 times. I mean, it really is. It's the comparison.
I mean, I really hadn't heard about you because I know you were regional favorites, and I was told that the band's getting back together because you guys were, had a really good run in the 90s, and then life gets in the way and you grow up.
Yeah.
And, but what a catalog you even built. Now, how many albums was it? 3 throughout the 90s?
Yeah, we made 3 albums then, and this is our 4th album. I think it's we've been kind of asking each other which of our albums is the most improbable to have exist. And we'd have to say the first one and the 4th one are tied for first place, but maybe this one is the most improbable. Just because we really didn't expect to make it. And I would say that we are rallying around the album. It was the album itself that I think began to create this urgency and kind of core to our motivation, which was really a great experience.
So you had the great run in the 90s, and then you all figured, hey, we're back in Northern California. What happened in that time since you disbanded and then you decided to put this project together?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, life kind of went on, and Sham and I each have families, and we're a couple decades along, and we've kept in good touch. We've been able to. He's visited out here a bit. I visited him. Actually, my whole family visited his whole family in New York when he was there. Now probably 7 or 8 years ago, before he moved out to Davis, in kind of the northern reaches outside the Bay Area towards Sacramento. But he and I have always had a really natural writing relationship, even long distance. And we didn't get a lot done, but what we did kind of worked. So yeah, we started tinkering, and the demos, you throw away lots of your demos, but we ended up with a couple that really sparked fast and had this kind of attitude and sort of expressed a story and a conflict that surprised us, and we sort of chased after that. So actually the song American Canyon off the record was the one where within 24 hours we were, he'd gone back home, I was here, we're listening to our MP3s and our edits and things, and I remember us, I think, messaging each other on Facebook or something, kind of going like, okay, this is like the real deal, right? And him saying like, yeah, it probably is, and then coming back to a few days later, like, this has legs, and that was what did it. So it was sort of not super strategized. I would say it was relational, and then it was then the content kind of came at us, and that was a great experience.
So American Canyon, what is the backstory behind this? Did you start developing this during the pandemic, before this? And then current events obviously have impacted. This is the title track.
Yeah.
Of the album.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny. I know I would say this, there was a little voodoo to it, to actually how, of the moment it has begun to feel. And there were times where we actually were backpedaling on some of the topics. No one really cares what we do, but I think we're just sort of, it's not a bad self-conscious. I think it's a self-consciousness of not wanting to be crass. I think it's, even if we only show this to our friends and family, do we want to be making a record that has these like sort of violent streaks and this maybe political tinge, but this like human conflict tinge to it? Do we want to drop that right in the middle? Is it really commentary if it's just what's happening? Was kind of the question, I think. But yeah, the active work on this, there are kind of 2.5 songs that got carried forward from quite a while back, but I'd say 2018 and 2020 were the active periods of work on it. And we had the name American Canyon for the song, and we're toying with it for the title by 2018. Then we called it Drums and Guns. And that was going to be the title right up until we made the video for the song American Canyon in the desert, in the Mojave Desert, in November 2020. And when we went and did that, we were there only like 3 days, right? So it's not like we really became desert people or whatever, but we were with some people who are more desert people that are from LA, San Bernardino and back, and spend a lot of time back and forth. Fabulous photographer we were working with, and then this film crew on the video, all based out of LA and around there. We felt like, okay, American Canyon is a place. It's a fictional heavy place. And it's like this. It's like this planet of being in planet, so to speak, of being in the desert. But the impetus for the name actually is a real place up here. So between where I am and Napa Valley, wine country, there's a little town called American Canyon. Oh. And so the name is actually plucked off of a real place. And we've now kind of expanded it and placed action and characters kind of in this American Canyon place.
Yeah, you could really feel it in that title track. It's just really just incredible. And the opening track is really sets the tone. It's so powerful and just really is like, these guys are really back. This is really just, even beyond where you left off, in 1999, 2000.
Yeah.
So it's quite an achievement.
Oh, thank you. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, so you had the run through the 90s. What was that experience like, going through Berkeley and in California, and you toured up and down the coast? That had to be just some crazy days. That must have been you must have a lot of road stories, I'm sure.
I mean, perhaps. I mean, we ran up and down in a van, and there were these two guys, Peter and Chris, they're brothers, and one or the other of them would go out on the road with us and drive the van. And yeah, it was when I look back, the thing I think of overall is that we were really hard workers. That there was sort of like, at the time you have a pager, right? So you're trying to get someone to page you, or, and then you call them back and you're booking shows. And there were days where we literally would play 3 shows in one day. So like do like radio, lunchtime concert at a college, and then a nightclub. I remember taking Advil and not, I mean, it was like, we were not partying on those days, right? It's just like we were surviving.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was a ton of fun. It was, and yeah, we got a lot done. We had a few conversations with labels and with publishing houses in LA, and nothing quite stuck. And kind of on our way out the door, we improbably ended up on Star Search, which we were very knowing that this was not sort of like a credibility move, but we also knew we sort of had one foot out at that point, and so we thought, why the heck not? And so we went and we competed on Star Search in Disney World.
Yes. The clip is up there on YouTube.
It is. It's still up. It's so funny, and I don't think we put it up there. I think someone else did, which is great. But yeah, I mean, and that was sort of the bizarre ending in a way for us. It was like we made our first record, which we're proud of, and we look back and sort of thought, wow, how did we do that? Much later we thought, how did we actually get that character onto the tape? Once you get a little bit good, all you ever want to do is like fix. You want to be, higher and higher heights. And we did that on the second album, and the third album found ourselves looking back, 10 years later, like, boy, that first album has a point of view. It has a fingerprint. It has an identity that is that of 19-year-olds trying to figure out how to behave in a studio and actually behave in the world and write about it and everything. And but yeah, we were proud of those 3 records, and we kind of closed down and sort of walked away at age 27 or something.
Yeah, some really good days there. That's a Star Search clip. You were against a band called Tin Roof.
That's right.
I thought that was kind of, and I know one of the judges was Roger McGuinn. I once met him. He's a very, very prolific songwriter. So I was like,
right.
Gwen got involved with Star Search. I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah.
What. And Ed McMahon was the host.
Right. And yeah, and oh gosh, what's her name? Martha Quinn is on, was our music host on that.
Yeah, they got her involved with that too. Yeah.
I think she was on for just 2 years or something like that. Of course, she's had this great resurgence on 80s radio now, and she's doing great. Yeah.
Might as well take it while you can. And listening to those earlier records, it sounds so mature, and it really sounds really professional. Anything could have been a single off of those. But as you know, the music business is just so rough. Did you have these huge stars in your eyes when you were just like, 19, 20 years old? It's like, wow. I mean, not saying you'd be the Beatles or anything like that, but it's like, must have been like, wow, this could like really explode.
Yeah, I think it dawned on us in fairly real time that you can be really close to some real stuff and really far at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's, and then, you fall back on the old saws of, you got to do it for yourself. You got to do it for your honest expression of your own thing. And you can't go chasing after, you can't make a left turn here and there just to chase after something that seems like it's going to work out. And we took off a long time here. I mean, I've done some writing, Sham's done some writing. I made a solo record somewhere back there. And the thing though is, I would put it this way, with the retrospective being middle-aged, we'll say, it hurts to make music and to want people to like it, etc. But it's even worse to not make it. You've got to get in there and do the work for yourself. So I think we were true to that on this record, and then we do have some higher hopes that that it feels relevant, and it feels like people can be kind of invited into this thing, and just take it on its own terms. And we don't need anybody to like us,
Yeah.
but we would love to have the music land with people, and be part of their creative, or uh, art or media lives and all that. So
Yeah.
and on that front, we've got a few people we've been able to collaborate a bit with, and big fun working with these film people in the desert, and then a couple other feelers we have out with people about other film stuff, and even music for film and that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. What was it like shooting that video out in the desert? Did you do a lot of videos in the 90s? I saw more just tracks that are streamed to YouTube, but it doesn't seem like you have
Right. No, we didn't really at all do anything back then. So yeah, in this case, I have a producer friend in LA who connected us with this fabulous director who's done a lot of great commercial work, like actual commercials. He even has a piece in the Museum of Modern Art in New York. It's a perfume commercial, and it's gorgeous. But his name is Ramesh Nicholas Ayers, and so we teamed up with him, and he and I did tons of conceptualizing. We actually kind of wrote an entire David Lynch movie, I think, to go into it, and then realized, okay, this is gonna be about 40 minutes long, and it's going to cost us $250,000. So we're gonna have to dial it back a bit, and we did. And I'll make sure you get to see it when it's complete. It's actually in effects and color correcting now, so it's very close to complete. But yeah, it was an awesome experience. I'd actually say, particularly during COVID, getting to watch creative people work together on something in person. Sometimes getting to watch people who are experts at something that you don't fully understand, but you can see the sort of sixth sense that they have, and the shorthand that they're using, and even the push and pull, and then the collective kind of accomplishes a big thing. It's probably like watching sports for people who like sports, right? I mean, it's along those lines. And boy, it was a joy to just watch them work. So day one, I was on camera and doing the performance stuff, and then day two, I was hanging around behind the camera, not of any particular value or use what I was doing, but I got to be there and watch people work and do great things. And yeah, again, during COVID, just to like watch people together sort of succeed as a team, it was a real highlight.
So much goes into that, and to make the video look professional and going through all that. I know that as a video editor, producer, writer, director, all that stuff, it's just so much work to, and we make it look easy. Well, I say this about musicians. I think it's incredible watching you playing the piano. I mean, like, that's just genius. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how your band puts together the things that they do. What's the songwriting process like for you? How does that work? Do you come up with lyrics? Do your other bandmates, do they come up with lyrics and music?
Right. Yeah. Well, as people often say, it happens a bunch of ways, right? And there are these moments where you've got words going on to music, right? And that's when the reaction kind of happens, the first few times, and everything's very malleable and all that. Yeah, I mean, essentially, there's the version of songwriting where I'm writing something kind of traditionally, guitar or piano, and humming over it and singing over it. On this record, you have some of that. You have Sham and me in a room working together, maybe switching instruments. He might be drumming, I might be playing guitar, I might be playing keyboard, whatever it is. And you're kind of just cycling. It's almost like you're turning these discs of ideas and seeing what mixes and matches. And one thing turns and it locks in and it sort of shoves the other one forward. But this is all very esoteric the way I'm talking. I mean, a lot of it is me then jamming over the results of those efforts, and I am the lyricist and sort of the melody guy. But that being said, Sean will sometimes bring in something with a melody line on it, and I'll often keep his vowels, and I'll change the words around the vowels. So actually, a good example of that is the song "Light Field," and it goes "Light Field, Light Field." He originally was singing "I feel, I feel," and I went through sort of this search for where's this going to take us, and then the concept of light field emerged. Actually, I was in London, in I think Westminster Abbey, and looking at this tile in the floor from Michael Faraday, who's this British scientist, and he's not buried there. So he has a tile on the ground, but he's not buried there. And I was sort of fascinated by that. And then he has this theory about the light field, which is a math problem or a math formula that expresses where all the light in the universe should be and which direction it should be heading at any given time in history. And that's sort of what the light field theory is. And so I was just very fascinated by what that was actually, and then sort of what that felt like philosophically. But that's an example where someone comes in with a word, and then I have to go and change it. But if I'm going to change it, I'll make a whole new path out of it. And the writing process for me, I mean, today I'll tell you, for example, this morning I had a really good writing session about the story of American Canyon, and the album is done. And it was about the end of the story. It was about what actually happens during the last song, Waiting for the Knife. And dealing with imagery and characters and things. And I'm kind of doing this sort of stuff throughout as we go. So I'm a constant writer and rewriter. And yeah, that was a crazy answer, I realize.
You get it just right. Well, it shows in the final work, and so this is an album definitely for the summer of 2021. I think it's hopefully it lands and makes its mark and goes beyond your region. And I love finding regional bands like yourselves, and hopefully they could expand beyond that. Was in the Bay Area, were there any other type of artists that influenced you? You had like Jefferson Airplane all the way through Grateful Dead, and then Huey Lewis and the News in the 80s. Did any of those people have any impact, or they were just like, they're on the radio all the time, I'm going towards the Smiths and Bauhaus?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, we are very bought into this place, I feel, but musically, I don't think we ever felt super in step. And a lot of our influences, especially when we were getting started, were very tied to sort of British indie rock. I mean, I was super into The Cure and New Order as a high schooler, and like you said, the Smiths. I mean, Sean can really get into that kind of thing beautifully. It's funny, on this record, he doesn't play that much guitar, and there are songs that have no guitar on them. And what he plays, though, is so succinct and kind of charismatic, I think. But you don't really hear him doing that Johnny Marr thing too much, except on Light Field. Like the end of Light Field, he does these arpeggios, and you kind of it sort of comes cascading out. But yeah, we're both huge Smiths fans.
Yeah, I could totally tell that. Morrissey was huge when I was in college, and Depeche Mode was another.
Yes. Oh yeah. Actually, we figured out. I think we made a social media post about this, but in the band, this is like a little Depeche Mode statistic, and it's not like an early Depeche Mode album, but Violator. I think Violator is just stone cold, brilliant. And I mean, the drum sounds and the impact and the ambience that they get out of that record is just flawless, and it holds up. I mean, if anything, it's almost like it sounds even harder than it did then somehow. And they really shed any of the sort of twee cute thing that they might have gotten tagged with early on. I mean, they had dark lyrics, but in any case, yeah, I think in our band, one guy's never bought Violator, but the other three of us, if you combine all of the copies we've bought, it's something like 12 copies of Violator. So, and you don't hear that at all, I don't think, or barely in our first three records.
Yeah.
But I think in this one, well, I don't think any of it sounds like Depeche Mode, but in any case, your question was about the Bay Area. We would much more strongly identify with, Joy Division and
Yeah.
New Order and In Excess or something like that than we would looking around here. I mean, there's also these, I mean, like for instance, like Green Day and Rancid. Like I love Green Day and Rancid because they're just such song people. Like no matter what else they do or what genre they come from,
Yeah.
whether they're legit punk or just fabulously wealthy rock stars. I mean, they do keep the songs coming, and I applaud that. But yeah, I don't think we've ever been part of a scene here.
I could see that. I could see like, it's got to be all around you, and you're kind of, well, you're in music, you should fit in with whatever's going on out here, but you're in your own niche, and it's college radio, which, was huge through the 80s and 90s. It just had its own genre. REM was another huge band where I was going to school, and
Right.
Begin to Begin, that's just a huge track off of Life's Rich Pageant, which I think is one of my favorite albums during the college years. It just was so involved with that.
Yeah. Well, and that set the stage for so much. I mean, you think about all the bands sort of even under that umbrella, and all the directions it's gone since. Yeah, that's amazing.
So on the new album, which is really interesting, a sitar makes an appearance in one of your tracks, All in My Head.
I don't think it's a sitar, although somebody else wrote that. I think it's a combination of a keyboard and a guitar.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it does have that sort of buzzy, low sustained thing going on. Yeah, and that's Sean playing that. But it is so, it feels like it's this instant signature thing that he got on All in My Head. Yeah.
That's
for a short song that it goes through a lot, All in My Head.
Yeah, it really is. It's a major standout as part of this album. So how many tracks are on the new album?
It's an 8-track album.
Okay, that's not bad. So I mean, it's nowadays, people aren't doing like really super long albums anyway, just because the way the music business has changed.
Right. Well, half the people are telling you not to make albums at this point, which I basically refuse not to. I mean, if we get to do this again soon, maybe we would go out and do a 5-single release. But I'll secretly have a concept, and it'll be, I'll have my threads between everything. But yeah, I'm really happy that this is like an album for me, at this time.
Yeah, it has that thematic element. I mean, it really is capturing the time that we're in, and I think that's really important. I don't think the album concept is dead. Digital just kind of made it a little less important because you could just do a one-off. You could say, "Here's my new single," and just like that's it. But
right. Yeah, it's the buffet line of all the music ever made all at once kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. It's just, but you have an incredible catalog too. I think just going through the years, and just hearing some of those songs, and the two you did two on Star Search. It was Spin.
We did two. Yeah, we did Too Long and Spin. Yeah.
Very, very catchy. I mean, what an amazing catalog. And just, how did that, how did you manufacture and get that out so fast, and we're able to just, kamikaze writing and get it out there?
Oh, you mean back in the day?
Back in the day, yeah.
Oh man, I mean, we were just sort of obsessed kids. I mean, literally, yeah. I mean, that album, Me, with Too Long on it, which was like the song for our first kind of 2 years. It was, yeah, I mean, we were 19 years old. We were very fortunate to have my good friend John, who was sort of like, he's 10 years older than me. So he came in with like, what to us felt like huge amounts of money. What to him was manageable, and he fronted us money, and we went into a studio, and we made a good little record. And we actually met people doing that who then were involved in other ways over our next two records. So we were always in good company after that. And there was continuity there. But yeah, we were going to school, and we were writing music, and probably our energies were 50-50. It was, you got your books and you got your 4-track, and your acoustic guitar, and yeah, we were hard at work.
So you all went into practical careers straight out of school, and one member went to grad school.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, yeah, I mean, if you, two of us did, I suppose, yeah.
Nice. No, what did you all get degrees in?
Yeah, so Sham is, what does he have? Sham's got a lot. He's a PhD in MD.
Wow.
He's a geneticist and researcher and a practicing MD to this day. And I came up into tech after my literature degree, and actually I've always been relatively technical. And yeah, I've got an MBA, so I'm, we're real grown-ups and all that kind of thing.
Perfect. Yeah, you were in the right area for tech, that's for sure. You just like totally hit the jackpot that way.
Yeah, I work at a non-tech company though, so I'm somewhat down to earth still.
It does keep it real, and you get these regular day jobs, and even with as much as you've done, it's just that I think that helps, and I think it shows in the latest project. It definitely, with what you've done on here, it's just it really is. It's really amazing. Very, very good piece. Now, do you have a piano there right now, or a keyboard?
Yeah, I have a piano. Yeah.
And
Here.
you have a recording studio.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, we actually made the record in my little studio downstairs in this house. Drums and guitars and everything were all done in that room. A little bit of overdubbing at other people's houses, but yeah, everything was cut here, which was super fun, and came out good. And I think we were actually a little bit wild. And actually, once we got the mix engineer lined up who mixed Lightfield last year, and we put it out kind of to test the waters and really to test our ability to finish something at high quality, I think. Once we had him on board, then we got even kind of more aggressive with some of the sound mangling we were doing, and kind of almost like singing in character. I mean, I don't sing with like a different voice, but I do sing with kind of a different psychology, or a sort of a different style maybe. And pushing that stuff, because we knew we had this mix engineer who was going to help clean up after us a little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
It just gives you that confidence. Sometimes if you're the one holding it all the way through, you won't take the same chances. And so that helped us get a little bit riskier, I think, especially on the final overdubs, drums, and all the final vocals, because I re-sang everything else after Lightfield. Even if I thought it was done before, I re-sang it, because we were getting further into this idea that this album was its own planet, kind of. It's its own space. But yeah, this guy Chris Hughes he actually mixed half of it up here, moved to Long Beach, and mixed the second half down there. And he's a fabulous engineer, young guy, like late 20s, and really a good match with him. We at one point, we saw this as a departure a little bit into synth world, although Sham and I each grew up with lots of synths in our childhood bedrooms, and I didn't play guitar till I went to college, actually. So we do feel like we have the bona fides here, to say, yeah, we're credible synthesizer people. But initially, we thought we would bring in an engineer at some point who was more electronic oriented. And then what happened was it dawned on us that to get the result we wanted, it would be more along the lines of Joy Division going into some, classic rock studio in the late 70s, and having the engineer not even realize that electronic music was being invented. Just have the engineer say, I'm going to give you the rock sounds to whatever the hell is you call this. And so we got Chris in there, and he actually does a lot of like doom rock and like even like metal and stuff. And so it was, I think it was a perfect combination, because whatever we threw at him, he wasn't phased by it, and he kept it kind of in, it's almost like a rock frame around a candy synthesized semi-unbelievable center, but it's got like rock frame. I like to think that was kind of the goal. And then the last guy down the line was this guy, Michael Romanowski, who's this like super well-known mastering engineer, and he's up for some big tech award for 2020. His mastering studio is actually less than 2 miles from here in his house. And he did a fantastic job just getting the whole thing, bright and shiny, and kind of got the low end all matched in nicely, and that right amount of like sort of heaviness and shine, sort of shimmer. I'm really happy with what those guys did.
That's a real talent, getting audio just right. Video is one thing, but audio and people having that special ear and able to mix things and get it just right, get the vocals just right, the guitar just right. They must be Pro Tools geniuses or something, or maybe even beyond that now.
Yeah, it was mixed in Pro Tools. Yeah. I think what Michael does is into some other thing that nobody understands.
That's why they're the engineers and you stay on the creative end of things.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
It's hard because, it's like you want to be an artist. You don't want to worry about, how much you're selling and the numbers. You want to just stay true to it. What gives you inspiration when you say, yeah, that's a song? Do you quickly jot it down? Do you get out your phone and start recording? Do you have to get right down to your piano?
Yeah. No, all of that, definitely. I've got little, I'll have a little video of me with the guitar fingering. So I'll just like put a video and, play 4 bars, and I don't want to forget that. And then I have to remember to go back and sift through it. I definitely work at the piano with a phone for melodies and things like that. And actually one of the biggest things I do is I have a list on my phone of song titles, probably like 300 or 400 song titles that haven't been written. And that for me just really sets up this, like I was telling you earlier, right? I mean, somebody says I feel, and then I say light field, and then I'm off to the races. I've gone like into history books, and I literally have a biography of Michael Faraday, the scientist, that I've read. I mean, like I just chase, and I love that. But yeah, in a song title, you can get, like, it doesn't do the work for you, but it's like it creates, I mean, I used the word frame a minute ago, but it creates a frame. It creates a space to play in. I often am thinking of creative spaces. I like to work on 3 songs at a time, and I think about it spatially, that 2 songs creates a linear relationship. These 2 songs implies all of this area on a line between them. Amazing. But 3 songs is landscape. If you have 3 songs and you bounce between them and you borrow anything in, or you pick a new spot for a 4th song between the 3 songs, you're working with almost a whole universe. So I often like to work with multiple things at the same time. But on the title, I mean, like I have this joke title right now, but it's called "I Want to Be Your Kato Kalin." and so like that's an example, I think, of how much active ingredient that translates, like, what I mean, right? I mean, actually, you might know more than what I mean, right? So if we start talking about, I want to be your Kato Kaelin, I mean, you would have to explain it today,
Yeah.
to a 15-year-old or a 20-year-old maybe. But eventually you might throw away the title, right? Because you might say, well, I wrote a song and it's about a man who wants to live rent-free behind a washed up, dangerous celebrity in a pool house.
Yeah.
And that's what the song is about, right? And then you write that song and then you take out the pool house and the celebrity isn't OJ. And you don't call it I Want to Be Your Kato Kaelin. It's just called, maybe it's called Take Care of Me. And people don't figure out that it's a platonic song until they've listened to it 7 times and go, what's going on in here? And so that's what, that's the kind of thing. I mean, do you call that inspiration? Yeah. I mean, it's totally inspiration because it gives you, it's like it's railroad track, right? It's like, it's a place to go. And then past that for inspiration, and maybe I'll talk a little bit about American Canyon. The story within American Canyon is not expressed in terms of the action. It's not telling you this is about a person like so, they have a fight with a person because of X, and then somebody comes to their aid, and then they escape, and I'm just threading in action. It's not telling that story, but it's telling the pivot points. It's telling the emotional pivot points in a story like that. And I think what I end up doing is finding things that are actually common, almost like common pain. And I think some of the themes under American Canyon are about what does it mean to be safe and loved? What does it mean to be unsafe and unloved? And like, what's the deal? and that sounds really maybe kind of hippie-ish, but it's also like, well, we seek love and safety, and we fear the unsafety and the unlove, and we bear that burden. We bear the burden of being thrown back and forth between the two, sometimes by our own imaginations. And that's actually very universal, and it's very interior as well. So when I get into the, what I'm saying about inspiration, it's almost like some of the big themes that I think that really hit me, I just need like a Kato Kaelin to be, my little voodoo doll to like walk around in that room or in that space of unloved, unsafe, like what's it all about? And like, I can get somewhere really fast, in that mindset, and a song will come because because something hurts a little bit. That's essentially where I think a lot of songs come from. I mean, songs are, think about the blues, right? I mean, the blues are prayers, and the blues are love songs, and the blues are ruminations, imagined slights, real devastation. I mean, it's all in there, so I just sort of think like, love letters, prayers, fights. These are what belong in songs,
all the inspirations, happy, bad, but some of the best stuff comes from all that pain, because it's a way of dealing with that and dealing with the stress of that. And music does that. That's what calms us down. That's what gets us through the day. It's just we have that now on our little pockets, and we're just listening to it, and it's just like, wow, that's just like the blood pressure just goes down. It's just, that's what people like you do, you artists like you do. It makes such a huge difference. Absolutely. Monsters of Mercy. That one, that's title really stands out. This is on the new album. Where did that, what are the origins of that track?
Oh man. Yeah. That's a good one you picked to ask about. Well, that one actually has a bit of a long history, in that I wrote a version of it maybe 10 years ago. And it was very slow and kind of dubby, not quite like Jamaican dub, but kind of that like rumbly, rattly, you hear these sort of knocking sounds in the background. It was sort of spooky. And that one, actually, my friend Peter Hatch, who's a fantastic pianist and a good friend of mine, we actually jammed in a room. I don't know what I was probably playing a bass and he was playing a piano. Once in a while I'll do this kind of thing, like just get together with somebody and throw up a mic, and we're not even recording well, but we're recording to a click track and we're just following it. And then I'll sift through the audio, maybe it's 20 minutes audio, maybe it's an hour of audio, and kind of go, okay, I like that 4 seconds. I like that 12 seconds. It's like sampling your own record. I don't know if you've ever heard like, Portishead, that kind of thing. They do a lot of stuff kind of like that. So I got this little, probably 6-second sample from him. And I wrote the chorus around that. And then I actually gave it to Sham, just maybe around the beginning of getting serious about this album. So maybe 2018, something like that, maybe 2016. He sped it up. He sped it up like a lot. He sped it up like 50%, something like that. So like almost chipmunky. He threw out all of the instruments, including the piano sample. He only kept my vocal and he replaced everything. It was reharmonized. It's in the same key, a lot of the same chords, but some new chords. I didn't end up with any instrument on that track. I think that's all Sham. Every instrument is Sham on that track. I'm super sped up. And when we went back to get the vocal in place, I learned to sing it that fast. But the audio destruction by being time compressed was so perfect that we actually ended up going back, slowing it down. I performed it slow and sped it back up again to make the final version. So that one went through a real destruction. And, I said something earlier about, the band really occurs in the relationship between us. And then now it feels like the music then says, oh, it's time to be a band, because we're all very good friends. I mean, I'll never not know these guys. They were all at my wedding, however many years ago, a couple decades ago. I think Mike was in it. These are my best friends, and we happen to not be in a band sometime, right? It's like we don't just pull together to be in a band. But the point here is, when a producer works with a vocalist or an artist and there's a lot of trust, you get exceptionally different, aggressive things. And this is an example where I'll tell you, when Sham sent me back my vocal sped up 50% and threw away all my instruments, the first reaction is, what did you do? Maybe what did you do to me? But what did you do to my stuff, for sure? But one, I trust him, and two, he's brilliant at this kind of thing. And so the destruction that went into that was just magical and almost unrecognizable. So I feel like I totally wrote it and I totally didn't write it. It's like both are true.
That's funny how it all comes together. So who's in the band? Because we haven't gotten their full names. I always want to give everybody credits.
Right. Yeah. So the full lineup is Matt Easton, me, and then Sham Rao, and then Mike Phillips and Aaron Becker. And in our classic form, it's Sham and I would be playing guitar, and he'd do the hard stuff and I'd do the easy stuff. And Mike drums and Aaron plays bass. And those are roughly what we did on this record, but everybody played extra stuff. I will say the four of us made all of the sounds on the record. And in many places, all four of us are there making sounds, but we weren't strictly in our seats, so to speak.
Yeah, pandemic recording is kind of interesting too. A lot of artists I've been speaking with throughout all this, it's like pieces, parts are coming together, and this is how this finally comes together. It's like, oh, we want the old days back where we could all jam in the same room. I can't wait to do that again.
Yeah. No, we're looking forward to it. I think all of us are partially, and some of us are completely vaccinated. So
Good.
We're looking forward.
Good. So you got, I mean, you will at some point where you do like a mini tour, just one-off shows once
Yeah,
California's opening up, yeah, right when this album is coming out.
yeah, June 19th maybe, or something like that. Yeah, it's coming. You know, we're just figuring that out. I think we will. I mean, there's a couple challenges, but we're going to be getting together in the next month. We have a couple of promotional appearances that we're putting together, which I think are going to be mostly or all virtual. But we're figuring out how to do something that's maybe more core electronic, with some other elements that we bring in, and it's live. You know, it's live produced, but sort of miniaturized in electronic. We'll see how that goes. And then as we reopen, and if more opportunities present, then yeah, we might do some select shows. We're also looking ahead to hoping to do maybe a late summer, video event, um, around the American Canyon video, when it's just when we really are at 80-90% vaccinated and people are starting to really relax. Um, Maybe try to host something like that. So.
California will definitely be that litmus test with having so much concentration of population, especially in the Bay Area. I'm sure that's
Yeah.
once you get to that herd immunity, I think that people will be a lot more comfortable. Live music can hopefully return. We really
Yeah.
hope so. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And you've done just one solo album over all this time?
Yeah. Just one solo album. Yeah. I've probably written enough for a second one, but I also, yeah, I haven't chased that too hard. I actually would like to write for other people
Hmm.
in the style that I write solo. I don't know that I'll do a ton more like that. I find it really exciting to be in the group where the ideas do, like in the case of Monsters of Mercy, just take a sudden swerve.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm quite competent at writing sort of, I don't know what you'd call it, sort of the grown up post Beatles, adult contemporary type thing. I can do that, and I enjoy it, and I will keep finishing songs like that, I think. But I also don't know that the world needs like tons more of that at this point. And I also just like, I'm also just having such a blast with this record and the concept, just that we did something that, people who followed us before are finding surprising, we're finding surprising, and even people we haven't met are finding kind of surprising in terms of like, oh, this is like very real and also very produced, and it's personal, and it's a little bit over the top, but you guys aren't kids. Like what's the deal? And I think that makes me feel like we got the job done in a way that's actually, at least interesting to us and a few others. And so yeah, I'm not really pursuing the solo thing in any way. In fact, we've been talking about trying to merge some of that catalog maybe into what we do as a group. So maybe we can get some more Monsters of Mercyization
Mhm.
done to
Yeah.
some of my more polite material. We can like, get it a little bit, half destroyed and then brought back into a new sound. So I'll put that on my list of possibilities.
That honeydew list. Yeah, that it's really interesting. You have a video wrapped around your finger that's
Oh,
been,
hey,
I mean, I love your version of that. The police is wrapped around your finger and how you
nice.
explain that. It sounds really good. You do it totally on piano.
Yeah.
That just to me is just like gold.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, thanks for checking that out. Yeah, man, I love that. I love that song. That's a funny thing too. I mean, like I would love to say, Joy Division, Bauhaus, etc. But I have a soft spot for, some straight up big radio stuff. I mean, probably still leaning into the British modern rock, slice, but yeah, I mean, Police and Peter Gabriel. I think I said it, In Excess.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, Yeah, I'm a sucker for it. I mean, the first band I ever saw live was Aha, uh,
Oh yeah.
the
We-
Norwegian Wonders, and I was quite disappointed that they weren't drawn in pencil, when they got up on stage. But it was that was awesome, and yeah, I'm sold out on some of that really just hard on your sleeve, um, synth tinged, you know
yeah, yeah.
stuff. I mean, OMD. I mean, the Thompson twins in retrospect were not particularly finessey. They were a little ham-handed, but also there's moments in that where I'm like, I feel it. It's not it's not Peter Gabriel, but
Right,
but
right.
it still moves me, and maybe it's only because I was listening to it when I was 11 or whatever.
Yeah, there's a real soft spot. Back in the day, I'm a little bit older, and that stuff was huge. Thompson Twins were massive. You didn't really go around, especially the high school I was at. It was more into AC/DC and
Right.
Ozzy, Black Sabbath, that stuff. You didn't go around admitting you like the Thompson Twins, but
No.
so proud of it now. I mean, gosh, I mean, all that 80s stuff. I mean, I'm proud I got to see all those people. I've seen Madonna live. I saw Michael Jackson. I mean, just uber popular stuff.
Yeah.
Glad I got to see all these people when they were in their heyday, but
Oh
you didn't
yeah.
dare say it back then.
Right, right, right. Oh man, that's great. I actually got to see Madonna on the Tonight Show. Uh, I think it must have been 2016. I got to see Barack Obama and Madonna live on the Tonight Show.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and
You
it
were up in
was
the studio at Jimmy Fallon's.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and it was I almost couldn't take it in. Like it did not feel real, and it was wonderful. It was great. But yeah, no, I mean, actually, yeah, I loved Madonna even as a young adult. The Like a Prayer record
All
is
that stuff.
is
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
insanely good.
Can admit it these many years.
Well, and Prince, I believe, is all over it,
Oh yeah.
and he wasn't credited, but I don't think he wanted to be. But there's a reason why that one is sort of like
Oh
amazing.
yeah. Well, best wishes with the new album, American Canyon. I just hope it explodes beyond California and just go across the fruited plain. Hopefully, maybe you could tour, beyond those borders.
Yeah, thanks so much. I hope so too. I really appreciate your support and checking it out and everything. And actually, two of my guitars are from Georgia, so someday I'll have to come through and say hi and visit the guitar shops too. So,
Yeah, we got a few here and great places to play as well. I always make a plug for this place called Eddie's Attic,
oh
which
yeah, I've heard of it.
nearby Decatur, Georgia. It's a little east of Atlanta.
Is
But
the 40 watt still there?
40 watts, Athens,
That's
Georgia.
Athens. Okay.
Yeah, that's over in Athens. It's been a while since I've been up to Athens. I don't know if they're still around, but yeah, that was always big with REM and
Yeah.
B-52s. Those
Yeah.
bands, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just fantastic. Well, hope to see you in person maybe one day. If
That
I'm
would be super fun.
not here in Georgia, maybe I'll be in California soon. We'll see.
Yeah, that would be great. I'd love to have a coffee and say hi.
Absolutely. Take care and keep in touch.
Thanks so much, Robert. Appreciate it.
Thank you for a great evening. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.